What's going on, everybody? I'm Enrique Pinheiro, and welcome back to the Hawk Show Talk Show, a Seattle Seahawks podcast. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and I also post highlights and news on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. If you want to follow me on any of these platforms, my username is at Hawk Show Talk Show. If you want to follow or keep up. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Carlos Dunlap re-signing with the Seattle Seahawks. So let's get right into it and let's talk some Hawk. So Carlos Dunlap, after we cut him, and I made a whole episode on that and how sad I was because I love Carlos Dunlap. He brought a ton of energy, and while I agreed that he needed to maybe had to have a restructured deal or take a pay cut, I really wanted to see him return to the Seahawks next season, and it was really sad for me that he got cut. Even though I kind of expected it, it was just it was gonna happen, but it was still sad. So when I saw that we re-signed him, I was ecstatic. I'm super happy, and it's about an 8 mil per year deal. Which before we cut him, he was gonna be making 14 mil this upcoming season, which I do agree is a bit much for Carlos Dunlap, his caliber of player. Well, I think he's around an elite edge. I'd say at least he played elite last year when he elevated our defense. 14 mil is still too much for a player like that who's not like a game wrecker, like your Aaron Donalds or TJ Watts that are really like destroying. No one, he doesn't deserve that much. But luckily we were able to bring him back. I got a little worried because this has happened before where we cut players and we intend on bringing them back for cheaper deals and it doesn't work out. Like with Sherman, back in 2018, we cut him, said, hey, if you want a cheaper deal, you can come back here, or we can try and match a different team's deal. But it was too much, so he went to the Niners, and I was worried that was going to happen, especially when I saw that the Ravens were interested in him. I got really scared that we were going to lose Los, even though it might not seem like a big deal on paper. It was I would have hated it. I love Carlos Dunlap. I think he brings a ton of energy. He's hilarious. His Instagram stories, his Instagram posts. All around, he's just a great guy, really funny and super fun. So I love having him on the Seahawks. We were able to bring him back, as I said, for 8 mil, and that's huge. And a major part of that, he said, was Russell kind of convincing him to come back. So grateful for Russell, and that also helps prove that Russell's here to stay, because I don't think he would be, meeting with players, not meeting, but like trying to convince guys like Chris Carson and Carlos Dunlap to come back to Seattle. If you're leaving Seattle, you're obviously not going to try and bring people back to Seattle. So I think Russell's here to stay, which I thought the whole time. I'm not worried about that. So yeah, but this just further proves my point that Russell's here to stay. And it just also further proves the point that Carlos Dunlap is a real one, because while it's not for sure, I bet the Ravens, or I don't know what other teams, all I know is that the Ravens were interested in him, offered him a good amount of money, around the same price. And right now, people have higher, I don't know, because last year was rough for them, but people really boast up the Ravens and like how good they are. They have Lamar. They got a great run game, obviously, with him a part of it. No really receivers, honestly, but the rest of the team is pretty good. The O-line could improve a little bit, but that defense is great. Calais Campbell, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, uh, Patrick Queen, a ton of great guys there. So yeah, I could understand Dunlap wanting to go there. But luckily he stayed here, and I'm super grateful. We traded for him last year, and he loved the Pacific Northwest up here in Seattle, which happens a ton of time with players. They love coming up here. Uh, and yeah, he stayed, and it's gonna be great because, as we know, prior to getting him last year, our pass rush was, I think, ranked the worst in the league, supposed to be one of the worst of all time. We traded for Carlos Dunlap. We gave up our heart and soul. We gave up B.J. Finney and a seventh rounder. BJ, good luck. I think he's back on the Steelers now, so good luck to him and that seventh rounder. I wonder who it is, but we got Carlos Dunlap. We got him. Changed the game. He had 6.5 sacks in the year, I believe. But the thing with that number is, when he was in the Bengals for the first 7 games of the season, they weren't starting him. Same thing with Geno Atkins. Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap, but I'm going to primarily talk about Dunlap, obviously, because that's the whole point of the video. They didn't start, and it's not because of a skill thing. It's that the Bengals knew, okay, these guys are on their way out. We're gonna cut ties with them soon. You're trying to get this young team. They had Carl Lawson. They got some other young guys around there. They wanted to make sure those guys get all their playing time, rather than having the same old Dunlap and Geno Atkinson, who aren't here for the long run, aren't here to stick around with Burrow and Mixon and T Higgins and the future of that team. Which I guess I understand, especially because they were at a point where it's not tanking, but they know they're not going to make it far at that point this year. So might as well just give the young guys some experience. But it's I don't know. It's weird to see, and I don't really like it. See these veterans, these established guys who are elite level talents not get playtime just because I don't know. It's better for the team, I guess. But team first, Anyways, it was better for Carlos Dunlap to get traded here. He got traded here, and I think he had 10 starts in the year. I don't know if 9 of them were with us and one was at Cincy, or if they were all with us. And I don't know if the playoff games counted in that either. But 6.5 sacks. He was crazy, and just the numbers don't show it because the sacks that he got were so important. Like a super late game one against the football team on Dwayne Haskins, super late into the game, huge sack when on like a fourth quarter 2 minute drive. A sack is huge on those because other teams clock's still running. They got to use a timeout. They got to do something. It's great, and then obviously the infamous Kyler Murray sack. Like I don't know if it was DJ Humphries or who he was up against, but he just literally just went right through him and gets to Kyler. Gave us the win on fourth down. Super exciting. Obviously, he had a couple more sacks. He had one on Josh Allen, different one on Kyler earlier in that game. Just an overall great season. And the super exciting part of this is now we have Kerry Hyder on the other side, which we brought Benson back too, which is exciting. But Los, well, he's never had, at least for on the Seahawks last year, the best guys he had were Benson and Rasheem Green and Alton, who all three of those guys I love, especially Alton. But it would have been nice to have a more kind of a high expectation guy on the other side. And Kerry Hyder brings that. And what I'm hoping, what I said in the Kerry Hyder episode, is that Kerry Hyder, his play style is super similar to Cliff Averill. He's not fast obviously, but he's fast for an edge. And if he can be that kind of speed rusher on, I believe, the right side, while the Leo on the left side, which formerly Michael Bennett, now Carlos Dunlap, can be on the other side. It's just like the good old days. Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, got to replace him with Kerry Hyder and Carlos Dunlap, and I love it. And it's fitting really because Kerry Hyder, Cliff Averill. Let's see, kind of veterans but not old. They're like both around 28, 29 or whatever. And they both played on the Lions, which is kind of funny. And they both had, like pretty solid NFL careers, not like no Pro Bowl years prior to joining the Seahawks, but like pretty solid. Bring him here. Hopefully he can grow. And then on the other side, Michael Bennett, Carlos Dunlap, you got your veteran who was already established. Michael Bennett wasn't making Pro Bowls in his time on the Buccaneers, I believe, but he was good. And we signed Michael Bennett, traded for Dunlap, same thing. And they come here, and it's just a total character guy, like a left end, a Leo, who's just hilarious. Like, obviously, if you keep up with Carlos Dunlap, you know how funny he is. First of all, it looks hilarious that he's 43. It looks like he should be lining up at strong safety with that number. But other than that, his stories, there was one where he was trying to pick a jersey number that I love, where he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was just hilarious seeing Carlos Dunlap. Or he has a ton of funny stuff. His Instagram posts are even funny. When he got released, he had a funny response to it. He's just always gonna be funny. And Michael Bennett was that funny guy, stealing the cop's bike after the Packers NFC Championship game and riding it around CenturyLink. So yeah, just two really funny guys. They remind me of each other, and I think it's gonna be great. Super excited to have Dunlap back. Speaking of D-line news, and around that time, the day after, I believe we got Dunlap back. We cut Jarran Reed, which is kind of sad to people because he's solid. But I called it. I thought it should have happened. I was hoping for a trade. We might have got a trade if he wasn't a snitch. Sorry, Jarran Reed. Hoping for the best for you and KC, but totally snaked because we might have been able to get a trade out of him. Like even if it was a late round pick, we have no draft picks. A seventh would have been really nice right about now. But we were probably shopping him, and then he tweets like "Peace out 12s," which I know the message isn't like there's no bad intention in that. At least I hope not. Where he says "Peace out 12s," he's just saying bye. But the fact is, people see that goes viral. They know, oh, he's leaving. Like either way, like we don't have to trade for him. He's gonna get cut. Worst case. So that really ruins stuff. So that's annoying. I don't know if teams already knew and he wasn't gonna get cut, but I just take away from that he gave it away that his time in Seattle was up. So teams know I don't need to trade for him. He's gonna get cut. He'll fall right into our laps, and that's exactly what happened. I said he should be cut or traded because he was making around 14 mil, I think. 12, 13. I think it was 14 mil though. For a guy who cannot play like a guy who makes 14 mil. And same thing with Dunlap. We cut him for it, but Dunlap, the deal was that I don't think he was making 14 mil a year. I think it was a restructure we did last season after we traded for him. But Jarran Reed, well, he should not be. That's like a top 5 paid Seahawk, and that was also prior to the Tyler Lockett extension. So it was like Russell, Bobby, Dwayne Brown, and then Jarran Reed. No Pro Bowls, like 2 good seasons ever. And you look at the stats. So his first year, he had like what, 1 or 2 sacks. Second year, same thing. Third year, 10.5 sacks. Insane. That's a great year. Next year, he was suspended for 6 games, but still played 10 games, like 2 sacks. And then this year, with his most recent year, he had like 6.5 again. The way I look at that, first 2 years, so that's no established pass rusher. Frank Clark wasn't at an elite level yet. Next year, Frank Clark is elite, has a crazy good season. Jarran Reed gets 10.5 sacks. Next year, Frank Clark's gone. We have Clowney, but Clowney isn't the same level of pass rusher, at least sacks-wise, as Frank Clark, and then I'll get to Dunlap. So he has another down year, and then with Carlos Dunlap, he has another up year. So look at that. His 2 elite years were with Frank Clark, like prime Frank Clark, I would say, and then with Carlos Dunlap, which isn't prime, but still great. So you're telling me in the 3 seasons that he didn't happen to have an elite pass rusher on the side, like alongside him, you're telling me in those 3 seasons he had a combined 5 sacks in 3 seasons. A guy who is completely dependent on the ends he has around him should be paid 14 mil. If I have a guy being paid 14 mil, he should be enough alone to prevent your team from being the worst pass rush in the league. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand that he had no help, but if we have the worst pass rush in the league, nobody on that D-line should be paid 14 mil. And that's what the Seahawks ended up going with. Probably copied it from me, probably stole my flow. They definitely got that from me. Took my recommendation. No, but seriously, a guy who's paid 14 mil should be good enough, should be elite enough to establish a good enough D-line to not be ranked the worst. And he wasn't that, didn't deserve the 14 mil. I was hoping for a pay cut, not a restructure, just literally a pay cut. And I guess there were talks with him about he wanted a long-term deal. And that's what confuses me. He wants a long-term deal because he only has 1 year left on his contract. And he didn't want to take a pay cut or whatever. Like, because I'm sure the Seahawks were open to a pay cut. Why wouldn't we want to keep Jarran Reed? He's great, he's solid, but he's not 14 mil great. So he comes in, he wants an extension, long-term deal, and we want a cheaper deal, and they couldn't agree on something, so we cut him, and he goes to the Chiefs, teams up with Frank Clark. Sorry, but he's ring chasing. We all know it. Everyone who's the Chiefs, he stays basically ring chasing, and it's not a bad thing necessarily. I don't hate ring chasers, but he goes to Chiefs, and it's annoying because he says, "Oh, I want a long-term deal. Oh, I don't want to take a pay cut." He's getting 7 mil for 1 year on the Chiefs. So you wanted a long-term deal with us? Why'd you sign a 1 year deal with KC? You weren't willing to go lower than 14 mil, or I don't know what the limit was that Pete and John gave him. Why are you getting 7 mil from the Chiefs? We definitely could have had a 7 mil deal with Jarran Reed here in Seattle, but it didn't happen. I don't know the full story on that. It's annoying. But in the end, obviously, I would prefer Carlos Dunlap to Jarran Reed, and that's exactly what happened, and I'm very happy about it. Would love to keep Jarran Reed. Was hoping to replace him with like a Geno Atkins, who's still a vet, but he played alongside Dunlap for like a decade almost. So that would have been cool to see. But right after we cut Jarran Reed, we signed Al Woods, who I'm not crazy about. He's really old. He's not that solid, and he drew a lot of penalties 2 years ago when we had him. I remember against the Saints. It was on a field goal, and he touched the center, and then a field goal turned into a touchdown, so that's annoying. And also, he got suspended for PEDs that season, I believe. So, not a fan favorite. He's also a deep defensive tackle, so he's just boring unless you're Puna forward. So, yeah, I guess that's our D-line. Maybe we'll move LJ inside. That's what I had recommended a while ago, that we move LJ inside because that's what he played in college, basically. So, yeah, we'll see what goes. Kerry Hyder, Dunlap, Puna, mystery defensive tackle, probably LJ, maybe Monet or Al Woods rotating in, and maybe some Geno Atkins or even a rookie. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening, depending on what platform you're on. If there's anything you want me to cover in a future episode, let me know in the comments, or I have a submissions box in my link tree, which is in the description. You can press, give me recommendations, questions, feedback, whatever. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.